What I'd like to do is bring our unsuspecting bankers up first. They are all from Berkshire Bank. First is Elizabeth Mock. Elizabeth, you want to come on up? Next is Mark Tomasi. He's a creative director at Berkshire Bank. Mark, come on up. And finally, we have Mark Pedrati. He's the AVP of Digital Marketing, also with Berkshire Bank. These are our branding victims. Now let's bring out the crazy people. They are from Monigle, which is one of the country's largest independent brand experience firms. They're based in Denver. Please join me in welcoming, first of all, Justin Wartell. He's the marketing director at Monigle. Come on out. And finally, Gabriel Cohen. He's the CMO at Monigle. Sir, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brand Makeover session, the closest that the banking industry will ever get to reality TV. I feel a little bit like I'm on Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent.
Is it Susan Boyle, right? You're Susan
Does
Boyle?
that make me Susan Boyle?
Yes, I think so, for today.
So for the next 45 minutes, you're all going to be a fly on the wall in a very large boardroom, seeing a brand presentation being done for the first time. And it could be a car crash. It could be great. I'm sure all the agencies will be willing us on as part of this. And we're going to take you underneath. We're going to take you behind the scenes through what we've done over the last 4 months to get here, and you're going to see the whole process and everything revealed.
But it's so much more than just an identity makeover, and I think that's important for all of us to keep in mind. This is not just about a new logo for Berkshire Bank. This is about anchoring to a new idea, something that drives us, something that serves as that filter for decision making. That's how we think about brand, and we hope that you'll keep that in mind as we're going through our presentation today. We want this to be a functional tool that helps not only this team to manage their brand and bring it to life in a more dynamic and exciting fashion, but also to guide all of our strategic decisions, everything that we do as an organization.
Right. So let's introduce you to Berkshire, a company that most of you can probably relate to. We're not talking about a massive bank here. We're talking about an organization that's celebrating its 170th anniversary this year, based in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, nearly $8 billion worth of assets, grown a lot through acquisition in the last few years, and about 1,200 employees.
And you can see a handful of the ways that Berkshire brand currently comes to life. You see it in their identity. You see it in some signage here. We've got examples of marketing collateral that probably looks similar to many of the things that each of you create on an ongoing basis or that your teams are creating. You have a sense of the role that they play in their communities, the stories that they're telling, billboards, car wraps. And in general, we're not in a position where anything is going wrong here. We're not facing any challenges.
Yeah, there's no burning platform. It's not like the stock price is going down. We're actually looking at making a change from a position of strength. Oftentimes, we feel that crises represent great opportunities to make change. This is making a change from a position of strength. We should make some introductions, probably, shouldn't we?
Might help.
So here we've got Liz, who is the VP of Marketing, been at Berkshire for over 30 years now. Over 30 years. So
she started when she was 12, of course.
That's my joke.
Oh.
Just out of curiosity, how many Liz's are there in the audience? How many are VPs of marketing for your bank or credit union? Come on, there's got to be more than that. Thank you. And then we have Mark and Mark. Any other Marks in the audience? If so, come on down.
Yeah, we have an extra space. They can scoot over.
We're collecting them here. And then Sean, who is the Chief Operating Officer, who is infiltrated in there amongst you. So if you see someone squirming or crying or getting very excited during the presentation and he's next to you, that's probably who it is. And out of curiosity, are there any Seans in the audience? Because any executive members who a VP of marketing would have to basically get on board as a supporter to do a project like this? There's a few hands, a few Sean's.
So, Gabe and I get the chance to talk to all of you about this work, but we really represent just a subset of the folks that have been involved in this project since the beginning. This is everyone from a research to a strategy to a design perspective. We're talking about 12 people that have spent the last 4 months on your brand, which is quite exciting. But I think when you step back even more broadly, we're an organization of about 90 people based in Denver, Colorado, that play the role of change agents. We're not the ones that are trying to convince you all to change. You know that. These guys know it. That's why they signed up for this. And you all are here. And the reason that you all are here and that we don't have to convince you to change is you're already telling us that you have to. When we went out and surveyed many folks such as yourselves, only 10% of people told us that they felt that their bank brand or their credit union brand was differentiated. 10%, that's 1 in 10 of you feel like you've done something that's differentiated. And maybe the anonymity of an online survey helps to bring out some truth, but we don't have to convince you all of the importance of change. You all are there. And it's often with those mentalities in mind that we get to work with organizations, big and new and small, that are each looking to define more clearly what it is they stand for, what do they represent, and why should any of us care about it? And that's really the role that we play.
Yeah, whether you're a shapeshifter or a digerati, to borrow a term from, if anyone went to the session yesterday from Deloitte, which was excellent, it's time for change. But the biggest challenge you will face, again, is convincing the Seans of the world, because in the same survey that Justin was alluding to with bank marketing leaders, the joint biggest factor prohibiting change is getting executive level buy-in, and hopefully some of the behavioral economic tips we got yesterday could help. So the reason I think why we're here is because of a single quote that you're going to hear more and more often. Before you can even get started with change, you've got to have someone in the executive team who realizes that the world has changed. And the quote that you see here on the screen to us is critical, because somebody on the board has to be a sponsor and they have to believe that in order to even get a process like this started. So what does old banking look like? Right? If you still think that this is your main value proposition, then you need a change.
Can I ask? I wanted to ask.
Go on.
Would anybody put their hands up if they have any one of these words in their names? And so this is the challenge, right? It's not to say that there's anything wrong with your name, but when you are so different, or when you are so similar to someone else down the street that might have a very similar name, it puts an incredible amount of pressure on your brand to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, imagine from a search standpoint, unless you're number one in these, it makes it very difficult to really stand out. And obviously, if this is still your vision of what the branch experience is, you're probably in a bit of trouble as well. I think the thing that's most fundamental to us, though, as we really think about what we're doing here, is that brand isn't just about identity, but it's the piece that connects to mission, values, and purpose. And this is an actual mission, vision, values from a bank that's over $10 billion. And my comment to everyone in the audience would be, if you have any of these words in your mission, vision, and values, you need to delete them and you need to start over again, because it doesn't get more generic than this.
So what we'd like to do next is show you a bit more of what the last 4 or 5 months have looked like for our team. Let you get a sense for how we've worked through the opportunities associated with the Berkshire Bank brand and how we've worked with this team to make it happen. You know, what we walked into starting this process about 4 months or so was this brand definition. The organization had been incredibly consistent around telling the story of America's most exciting bank. That's where it started. It started then to manifest in the X-Man that's listed here, and has started to migrate into signage and other elements of communication. And it's been distilled down to an acronym, the AMEB, America's Most Exciting Bank. But the challenge, and it was our working hypothesis as well, is it seemed to cause more confusion than clarity. And we heard this from some of the executives. We heard this from consumers. We heard this from tellers interacting with people on a day-to-day basis. People thought, well, is that just another acquisition? What's the relationship here? And to dig a little bit deeper, we wanted to share with you the 3 main ideas that really emerged to us. That's the same shirt, isn't it?
It's the same shirt. Is that your good shirt?
This is my good shirt.
It's your good
yes.
shirt, okay. You washed it though, right?
Yes,
Okay,
hopefully.
good.
All right, so let's talk to you about the 3 opportunities that stood out. When it comes down to it, America's most exciting bank isn't really what customers want. And in many ways, it became the rallying cry of the organization, and it's something that drives our internal culture. But the challenge is people don't get it. We talked to more than 1,300 consumers as part of this process, and we'll talk a little bit more about the research in a couple of pages, but 1 in 2 people, more than 50% of folks, don't know what it means and can't attribute ideas to it and an understanding of why it stands out. The second piece that really stood out is the challenge of saying no. And many of you have probably let campaign stories, brand ideas, creative concepts live on, maybe past their due, especially as you're introducing new. And what we saw here was this layered history lesson. We're asking people to interpret the X and understand that, and our name and logo, but then also our tagline. That tagline, that's a lot for people to understand. And it sets up that third idea, which is there's just way too much to explain. And that becomes the incredible opportunity here is what is it that we want to anchor to? What is it that we want to stand for? So let's talk a little bit about the things that you all are doing that completely caught us off guard, grabbed our attention, and really became some of the foundational elements that drove our work. The first is that everybody says, and you will probably attest to this, well, our culture is different and very special. We get a chance to work with a lot of different kinds of organizations. We've never seen people, especially at a branch level or at a store level from a retail point of view, that are as excited about being part of Berkshire Bank as these folks. And it's not just leaders from a corporate perspective, it's people out spending time with one another, getting excited about their customers. It was an incredible cultural awakening. It was eye-opening in many respects. The other thing that really stood out is this commitment to a My Banker program, which is essentially the concept of concierge banking for the masses. Why can't we provide people with this kind of personalized experience, tailored exactly to what they need? And that's what this organization is committed to, is that personal relationship. The last piece is the orientation to the community. And we can say we can build effective corporate social responsibility programs. These guys are building branches that include community spaces so they can connect with people and use the physical experience in a completely different fashion. So it's those core ideas around our culture and the excitement that people have in being a part of the organization, the concept of My Banker and the orientation to that personalized experience in this community space that really helps this organization to stand out, and then also serves as a foundation on which we can build that differentiated, singular idea that we need to anchor to. Whoop, I was too far.
I had a clicker as well.
Oh,
Sorry.
watch it. All right, so as important as it is for us to come in as third-party experts and provide a point of view, it's just as important to understand what the market needs. And with our partners, Clear Voice Research, we were able to go out and talk to more than 1,300 customers. Now, I'm sad to report that we're only going to show you 2 slides on this today, because usually we'd spend 3 hours on the quantitative phase of a project like this, but we've only got a short amount of time. We built a market driver model that digs into exactly what it is that drives choice and the potential for return, the potential for us to take ownership of something that has business results associated with it. Interestingly enough, this is the eye chart portion of our presentation for today. Interestingly enough, it was all of the very people-centric and relationship-oriented attributes that were not only most important to the consumers with whom we were speaking, but they were also the things that Berkshire Bank has some momentum around, something that was getting people excited. They were getting credit for it. So that starts to set up an idea that we can anchor to. The other piece that was very important was this window of opportunity around our personality and the culture of the organization, trying to make it more specific and tangible. And it's brought to life at the intersection, or the window, so to speak, between down-to-earth, charming, and doing something unique. You can imagine your closest down-to-earth or charming friend and who that person is, how they interact with you, how they behave. That was what this brand personified was getting credit for. So those ideas started to set up exactly what this brand could stand for in the marketplace. So let's very quickly look at what we learned. Essentially, that was a 6-week discovery process in, now that the clock's running, 3.5 minutes. But let's just quickly summarize. What really stood out, inside out. Brands are built from the inside out. They're informed from what it is that we all care about, what it is that these guys care about, but they're also informed from the outside in. So the inside out story here, nod at our history, but move forward. It's all about what's happening next and that orientation to how will we be better and different in the future compared to where we are now. Then secondly, outside in perspective, what is it that the market cares about? It's those people-centric attributes, those ideas of service quality, of the relationships that we're building, those interpersonal relationships. That's what people care about. And so that sense then of charming and down to earth is ways we might be able to bring that to life.
So having gone through that discovery session, the work starts now in having to build up what the brand platform is. What's the brand strategy that becomes the foundation for everything else? And for us, it was important to build a story around that. And what we found was that as part of the creative platform, realize that no one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to go to Berkshire Bank. We do that because it's a path to the future that we're trying to create for us. It's that trip that we're looking forward to, that we're saving for. It's that business that we haven't yet launched that might be a new potato farm in Maine. It's the 28-year-old couple that's looking to buy a new house in Pittsfield, or an event that we're hosting, but essentially encapsulating this idea that our bank can serve as a launch pad, and our bank can serve as a launch pad for our customers so that it can help fulfill our dreams, share our stories, and our people and our customers want to continue to learn, improve, and evolve. And that's brought into, we didn't want to lose the idea of excitement, but translate it into a bigger idea, which is great excitement awaits. Starts to bring in that sense of anticipation. So for each of us, the idea of great excitement awaits becomes our foundational brand purpose.
Now, let's make this a bit more tangible, because we got to think about how brand, because as we said, this is not about simply a logo change. This is about working with brand as the filter for our decision making. And as such, we need to codify it in a more purposeful structure. So what we exist to do, what we believe gets these guys out of bed, gets folks out of bed from the CEO to your teller in a branch, is the sense that we are here to ignite what people never thought was possible. That's why we exist. That's why we're here. And in order to do that, we have to understand people and their individual perspectives, to have this natural empathy. We have to celebrate and unleash that empathy in knowing our people's comfort zone, both inside and out. We then have to be able to have the systems, the processes, the tools in place to cater that experience to the individual. And if we're going to be igniting what somebody never thought was possible, we have to always be reimagining what the future could hold. Now imagine then what the type of individual is that would be part of this organization, the personality traits that might be tied to it. That's what's brought to life here, the sense of that trusted neighbor, somebody that's spirited in their advocacy for you, and then someone that's a game changer, and each of those tie to the commitments that we make. And lastly, as Gabe introduced, the idea of great excitement awaits is ultimately what we're trying to leave people with. Whether that's when Liz goes to get in her car and go home after work one afternoon, or it's somebody on Sunday never having to dread Monday because great excitement awaits at Berkshire Bank, but also for our customers. We want people to think about the experience they have with us and the takeaways being driven by the sense of anticipation and the excitement that awaits.
You think about how this ties back to the ING story yesterday for everyone who watched it. It's not that we're going to come in and teach people to be excited. This is going to be a filter through which we use for recruiting. We're going to naturally look for people that are excited. But what's really critical here, Liz and team, is that the purpose and every single one of those words have to be internalized and believed by the CEO, because this connects to the vision. It has to believe every single one of these words because it has to transform and translate to everything that you do.
So with that, we'd like to take a pause. I think we mentioned that we'd have a couple of
So
places.
get your
If
phones
everybody
out
can
now.
get out their phones, open up the app, we've got a quick poll for you to take. And the question is not for you to assess whether this is the right idea for your brand. It's to assess, given the story that we've helped to articulate, both the inside out and the outside in points of view, how confident would each of you be in Liz's role, going to your COO or your CEO and saying, you know what, our direction, our go-forward direction is based on this idea of great excitement awaits. So I'd love to do a quick poll. We'll give you a second to fill it out.
If you go into your app now, it's going to ask you how confident would you feel taking this brand platform based on everything that you've seen from a discovery, where a 5 is you'd be very confident going and saying, this is our positioning, this is our brand platform, and 1 is you wouldn't feel very confident. And this isn't about your own personal confidence about doing that, because that might differ. It's about the confidence in the work. So is there a drum roll?
I thought it was Jeopardy music.
Okay. If you go to your app, it should automatically be appearing on there.
We've never done a live polling before, so this is a bit of an
Here we go.
experiment for us too.
Okay. We've got 85% top, 84% top 2 box.
That's great. Look at that. We might know
Okay.
what we're talking about.
I'll assume the 23% are all the agencies.
You what?
23% are all the other agencies
Yeah.
who are in the room.
Well, and the 2% are the ones that we crashed their party. All right. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. If we can bring the slides back up.
If we think about the process, right, the 12-week process that we're talking about here, this really becomes a line in the sand when it comes to, you have to get that buy-in at the board level on what the brand platform is before you can move forward. So now there's a lot more freedom, because whether it's one visual direction or another visual direction, you can always go back. But everything should now anchor to the brand platform and guide everything that happens moving forward.
And with that in mind, let's imagine then that we're in a situation where we've effectively sold this in. We've sold it into all of you. And now it's time to bring this idea to life. How do we translate from the world of words to one of visuals? And what was really interesting is that when we got this project started, there was something that you said, Mark, that really grabbed our attention and served very much as a filter for a lot of what we do, and that's the concept of better bold than boring. And that really pushed our design team. And I think what you'll start to see is how each of our ideas started to take on that concept. Our team started to go in 3 different directions from a visual territory standpoint. The first based on this concept of explosion. What happens when things connect? The excitement and energy associated with an explosion. A vision, having a new view of the future and that anticipation of what's happening in the future. And then lastly, anticipation, all about what the future may hold and the various experiences and ideas associated with anticipation. So with that,
That's the moment of truth now. So if we can roll the video, we'll actually show you where we landed. And we'll have some of our design, you'll see some of our designers telling the story, real behind the scenes of how we got to our brand. What you're seeing today is a regional bank preparing itself for the next 20 years. This isn't an upstart like Ally or Simple. For everyone here, it marks the official beginning of the end for old banking. It's not a question if banking is going to change anymore, it's just a question of when it's going to happen.
When the strategists came back from getting the groundwork done about the brand and what it is today and what it is going to be going forward, this notion of excitement awaits, and how do we bring that to life in a visual way? So that gets our wheels turning. We'll build a visual sort of library of images.
You don't necessarily know what's going to come out of that. And it's that unexpected nature that leads to ideas becoming something that's completely new and in a lot of ways better.
You know, there's that high five, the puppy dog anticipating his owner coming home. Just seeing a new perspective, a new horizon. Colors, the reds, the bright blues that really start to feel more like the energy and the excitement that we're trying to express for this brand.
When you do a brainstorm like that and you see it all up on the wall and you think, you know, what are people thinking here? It's kind of interesting to hear their explanations and their thought processes. And it's just the different perspectives that people bring to projects like this that inform where we end up.
Sketching is really important, especially with a new project like this. You have so much more freedom to really kind of nail down those details, and when you're working with something so gestural and natural and organic, I think that it just lent itself to the concept.
The direction that we have, we know, is very different. It has the level of energy and excitement and anticipation that we really want for the Berkshire Bank.
Sorry, I had to put that in.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So the big question now is, should we get off or can we carry on? Okay, great.
So when we set this up, while we've landed on a visual identity here, it's about so much more than that, and it's really has to be grounded and driven by our people. So what we wanted to spend a little bit of time on is talking about how does this idea of great excitement awaits, this brand definition that we've worked to craft, how does it translate to people and behavior?
Yeah, the really hard work really starts now, after the definition of the brand, and even if you took it through to launch, how do we make this sustainable over the long run? And so the first piece was how do we tie it to culture and behaviors, and how it starts to translate into actionable behaviors that you can measure and look at every single day. That sense of turning off the autopilot and being present every day is something that connects to excitement, and the importance of everyone being in something together and not thinking about our own siloed work. Using straightforward language is a key element here, and again, that natural orientation for people who want to make connections and just have that in their DNA. It also connects and translates to everything we do from a community outreach standpoint through our corporate social responsibility programs. So we also had this idea of a give 10, where you give a certain percentage of your time to community-based activities that are exciting. Imagine having posters around the different branches where people talk about their different activities.
And how do you take this even a step further? If our visual world is inspired by gestures of human excitement, are the gestures we should be encouraging among the people that we serve? So imagine a mobile experience where gestures actually guide how you navigate through the app. Based on the gesture that you make, that's how you command the app to do certain things on your behalf. So you start to think of how that might come to life. There's a certain gesture associated with a kind of transaction. There's a certain gesture associated with making a phone call. So each of these offers the opportunity to stretch the definition of this brand a little bit further, and even in the physical manifestation of our customers interacting with our touch points. Right. Let's take it even a step further, creating what we described as excitement accounts. Why not provide the opportunity to close the gap between our people and the customers that they're serving, celebrating the things that people find exciting. So let's say it's somebody paying off a car loan, saving so that they're at a point where they can go on vacation, and celebrating that, not just from a social standpoint, but also then connecting it very directly to our employees. Allow them to close that gap and make more personal the interactions that we had, the importance of people orientation.
Right, the notion
of
celebrating each other's achievements, and we're excited about the success of others too.
So then lastly, it's uncommon that we get the opportunity, really with absolutely no handcuffs, even to envision a branch of the future. So if we were to anticipate what would great excitement look like if it was brought to life in a physical experience, it's really about three main things from a space planning standpoint. It's about how we enable people to dream and see the world that they're trying to create for themselves. It's how they share, and how, especially because of our authentic orientation to community and bringing people together, how do we create a space for that? And then learn and go. And those are the blocking and tackling elements of the experience. And you can see that people could interact in these spaces in a whole variety of ways. And it comes to life here from an exterior standpoint. We're talking about bringing to life a community space that's really at the top of that experience. It's on that second level there. And you see a sense of the transparency associated with a brand that would occupy a building like this, the welcoming orientation. The other element that's really interesting here is the ability to keep a lot of white in the experience, because each person is painting their own canvas, and that's probably best brought to life here. We called this the dream wall, and it was connected to, it serves double duty as 24-hour ATM vestibule, but what it allows us to do is let people celebrate and paint their own story and their own picture. And this was what was identified on kind of the left side of that space plan story. And then if you think about the experience, we're creating that share opportunity, bringing people together, welcoming them with that patio or the porch out front, bringing them into the experience, amplifying the work that you're already doing around the pod-based systems, where you're putting someone shoulder to shoulder with the teller and interacting in that way, taking that a step further. And then also anchoring to the sense of a community wall, where you can start to share the role that Berkshire Bank plays in that community. So it's again, very blue sky, but that's the beauty of a process like this. You get to look at it with really no limitations.
Yeah, this is cheap to build as well.
It's very cheap, yeah. Yes.
So we've kind of really come to the end of the work, but we thought it would be important to end by bringing this back into context and going back to that old banking phrase that has really stuck with us. And we started to think about this in the context of what are the other brands, what are the leaders that have really moved the entire industry forward, and how do we look when we compare to those? Again, it's not just about identity, but it's the entryway, but it connects to everything that we do, and we feel a bit more part of the family. As we explored, though, it's not just about the innovators. This isn't just about the fact that fantastic, a regional bank from Massachusetts is now at the forefront of the innovation. I think what's really interesting is that as we started to look around the entire industries, there are so many other Berkshires out there that have taken the lead, that have said that it's enough of old banking. And I think that this is an opportunity to create a real line in the sand, and not just join them, but be the best. So we always try and create an envisioning statement, try and think, what the future look like? And how cool would it be as a manifestation of the notion of great excitement to us, great excitement for Berkshire, the idea of great excitement awaits, is officially ringing the death knell for all banking. So we imagine a future that looks like this.
So we thought we'd take a pause there, get your thoughts, reactions, open it up for Q&A.
Or a round of applause, or...
Yeah.
No, stop it, stop it. Stop it.
What do you think?
Questions, comments? Pretend they're not here.
Thank you very much. I just want to give a shout out to Monigle Financial Brand for making this possible for us. It's been a blast for the 4 months. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think you hit really what we were trying to do, that we can't do traditional banking. How will that look in the future? How will we connect to our business challenge? And it's not about the money. It's about the connection. It's about what you do. You know, what you do. I was able. It's to show a purpose. So I think you've connected on that as well. I felt that I came away with an increased brand awareness. We certainly are the pack rats of the branding business. We have kept layering upon layers of our brand identity. And how do you explain that to a consumer? If we're spending too much time explaining who we are and what we do, I think there's some simplification. That was great. It took us out of our comfort zone. I think there's no doubt about that. The pink, the fuchsia. I certainly will look up what is the meaning of pink. I don't know if you can tell us, if you can share that with us, that fuchsia. What is the... but I think you're helping us evolve and make an emotional connection. So thank you. Now that's it. And I'm going to let Mark.
Thanks. I would like to thank Monigle and the Branding Forum crew for allowing us to be a part of this experience. It's been a lot of work for them and for us, and something that was completely unexpected and exciting, which kind of speaks to where we're at now. And I think Liz pretty much hit on all cylinders with what she spoke, with the colors and simplifying. And being a designer, one of the key things is to keep things very simple and to connect quickly. And I like that a lot of things were kind of stripped down. And one thing you had mentioned to us when you interviewed us was like, you guys like to keep a lot of stuff on the plate. And I'm glad you took some of that stuff off the plate. And yeah, this is bold. It's definitely not boring. And I look forward to the next steps.
I second that. I third that, right? I mean, you guys, you blew it away with the video. I gotta say, it was compelling. It really was. Probably the best video I saw all conference. So kudos to you guys. Yeah, that is pretty bold, right? Yeah, you kept the pieces that mean important things to us here sitting on the couch. Our team out there too. So, I guess I really don't have much more to say about it. It was a very, very good process and presentation.
I kind of feel like I'm on a first date here, so I'm a little nervous. I don't know what else to say, but that's a good feeling, right? When you haven't been there and done that. So, thank you, guys.
Yeah, I just want to, really second. Our CEO, Sean Gray, has given us that challenge of we cannot do traditional banking. I think that this is not traditional banking. I think what you have shown us today sets us apart, turns heads, and it's not forgettable. So thank you.
Well, thanks for being a part of it.
I did want to give out a shout, also a shout out to your process. Very, very much impressed about the process for the brand discovery, the research. It truly was a 4-month process, and it was not just about the logo identification, and there's a lot to the process, and Monigle put all the time and effort into it. So thank you.
I think one of the lovely things about doing this together as well has been, this wasn't just a matchmaking service where Jeff put it out to a bunch of banks and you replied. We'd been talking for 2 years on and off, and then suddenly it was like, wait a second.
That's right.
Why don't we do it together at the forum?
And that's great. And I first was exposed to Monigle at a conference very similar to this many years ago, and admired what they had done. So this opportunity to be part of the Brand Forum and be part of Monigle was amazing for us. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we thought what we'd leave you with, got a couple of takeaways, since many of the organizations who have presented have done takeaways, so we had to do that too, right? That's what you're expecting, the one where we put the slide up and everybody takes a picture? Just take a picture for my sake, make me feel good. Can we throw that up on the screen? Otherwise, I'll be reading to folks, and that wouldn't be very exciting.
And these are takeaways that, they're not our takeaways. We got together with the Berkshire team and we thought, okay, for anyone who's thinking about going through a rebrand, what are 5 key takeaways that you need to be thinking about?
So the first one, something to keep in mind, is the B word. And this is challenging for us because we're a branding agency. This is what we do. But the reality is, in some organizations, the idea of brand is either not well respected or not well understood, sometimes a combination of both. And oftentimes we have to be very thoughtful and purposeful of how we use the word brand. Otherwise, we're going to run into brick walls pretty consistently. The other element is thinking about brand not just from the perspective of identity as we teed up, but really focusing on the role of brand as an element of culture and experience. Yeah. Culture of the people that we're creating and evolving and training and deploying, and then the experience that they're ultimately creating for their audiences.
Yeah, essentially, sometimes when you have people who are in non-marketing or brand positions, you're not going to be able to get past the fact that they just equate brand with being identity or a logo. And so the simple solution is use a different word, talking about it in the context of experience or culture. I think we have a glossary of 10 different words that you can use as alternatives for brand. I think the second thing that we learned, but it's something that I'd originally heard from Antonio Lucio, who's the current CMO of HP while he was at Visa, was, he used to be at PepsiCo, and he said that when you work for PepsiCo, people get marketing, and so it's okay to come in with the pretty pictures. But as soon as he moved to Visa, you have to start with the numbers first to give you the permission to have the conversation and about the pretty pictures.
Then the third point, at least from my perspective, is the single most important on this page. And that's if you're going to endeavor upon any brand-related change management initiative, even if it's a tweak or it's a significant change, the words that you use, ultimately that concept of great excitement awaits, it has to be the words of your leadership team. If they can't see themselves in it, they're not going to own it. And you've probably experienced this before. They have to take ownership of the words that we ultimately define for our brand.
Yeah, you can do all the focus groups, all the research that you want, but they have to internalize and own every single part of that.
Is this me? You? Me? Oh. Promise and delivery. We've talked about inside out and outside in, right? That a brand is informed by the inside out perspective, what these guys care about, what people care about in the branches. But it also then has to be informed outside in. We discussed a little bit of that. But when you're actually building a brand, it has to be done inside out only. And that's because you have to be able to deliver the promises that you're making. So often an organization will say, hey, look at our new stuff. And then you walk through the door and the experience is underwhelming. We often beat up on Comcast Xfinity for this. Anybody Comcast customers? Anybody satisfied Comcast customers? And they say that they talk about themselves as being the future of awesome. That's their promise. I can't remember a time I've ever had an awesome experience with Comcast. So you got to think about how we're actually delivering that experience if we're going to stand up that promise, make sure it works.
Yeah, the flip side of changing the definition of brand to relate to culture and experience is that now you need broader alignment across the company. I think the CMO or VP marketing's remit has changed to being one of scope, which is going to the CFO and asking for more dollars to spend on advertising, but one of scope now, where you're asking for more influence to touch the different parts of the business that are touching the customer. So whether that involves sales or customer experience, customer support, or call centers that might not be under your jurisdiction. And I think that relates to the last and final point here, which is the importance of having that alignment before you start a process like this. You can't just do it within the marketing silo, otherwise it'll be unsuccessful.
How do you measure how successful the rebrand's been?
Great question.
Great, fantastic question. You can be incredibly scientific and do a brand valuation and figure out the value of your brand. That'll also probably play well with your CFO, in this industry especially. You can get out and assess a variety of industry-specific measures associated with brand. So how well are you moving the behavioral needle? Is the things that you're communicating and then delivering, are they aligned to causing people either to choose you more often or to stay with you and advocate on your behalf? What we often find is there's a traditional portfolio of marketing measures that you all are probably using, but they're not tied to the behavior as directly as they need to be. So how do we make sure that people choose us more often, that they're more loyal to us, and that they're advocating on our behalf? So that can be done quantitatively on an ongoing basis, depending on how frequently you want to make those updates. But those are probably more scientific, a little less scientific. The other piece is to think internally. One important measure of rebrand success is how is it taken internally? Are you able to see behavioral evolution in your people? That can be measured more officially through a retention measure, but also are they delivering on-brand behaviors on an ongoing basis? Are people using the brand more consistently? Are you all getting fewer calls saying, hey, where's that picture of that? Or you're seeing fewer template mistakes, collateral inconsistencies. That can also be an important measure of success.
The critical thing, whatever it is we use, is that we have to establish a baseline before you go and do the rebrand. There's no point in a couple of years saying, how did the rebrand do? It's great, our awareness is 29%, or our brand value is $3.8 billion. So, okay, well, how does that compare to? So the importance of setting context and agreeing to what those metrics are up front and being proactive from a marketing standpoint and working with the executive team in defining what those pieces are that you're going to be held accountable and responsible for critical. Justin and I both have an analytics background that was formed at one of the global brand agencies. So we appreciate the question because it's something we geek out over most days.
Yeah, with that in mind and along the sense of measurement, if anybody's going to put out an RFP for this, one of the smartest RFPs for a rebrand that we saw included in the discovery phase an initial measurement step. So if anybody's writing an RFP for a project like this, write initial measurement into discovery. Have them do it right in the beginning.
Not just initial, but an ongoing measurement
yeah,
plan.
But at least setting that baseline. I think there was somebody waving in the back. Sure. So what's... And
Can we get one of our designers on the phone?
What?
Can we get
yeah,
one
we
of our
could
designers
dial them up. We could probably flip back to the logo, or maybe if you could put the logo on screen. So I want to tell you part of the story, and the other part I want to see if you start to see and envision. We don't often have the opportunity to have the most distilled version of our brand idea in logo format. So if you think about this idea of great excitement awaits, what is one of the most meaningful, exciting things that you encounter? Well, for us, one of those was the sense, does anybody have a dog? Yeah, dogs here. When you come home and that dog is so happy to see you, I can't believe I'm going to do this on stage, and he's shaking his little butt, and there's just this excitement and energy. Really, that sense of great excitement awaits in that form served as the inspiration for this design. And so I don't know if anybody saw it when it first came up on screen, but there's a bit of a nod to a dog here. And this is not about the brand being dog-centric. It's not about that. It's that distillation of great excitement awaits is best brought to life in that emotion of that dog.
But it doesn't. But we're also taking existing equities and strengths that we have in the current brand, because there's been so much investment, not just financially, but personal investment around the idea of the X. And we started to see that coming up together, so that something that we can really build off and evolve the design system around it. And remember, as we start to think about this, it's not just about a logo. The logo is one element that connects to the entire design system. So when you think about the gestures, you think about all of the movement within the design system. It's how everything works together. It's one of the challenges sometimes of when you go through an actual project like this, of looking at pieces in isolation as opposed to as part of a complete ecosystem.
Any other questions that we could answer?
I hope we got the butt thing on video.
Yes. I'm really sad that that happened. I'm regretting it already. All right, so let's flip back through this. We really enjoy this stuff. We would love to talk to you all a bit more about it. We've got some experience boards set up outside that will be available to view. You'll be able to see the new concept, which was on screen, as well as a couple that didn't make it past the cutting room floor. Our partners from Clear Voice Research are here. They can dig into the specifics around the model that they built to help bring to life the opportunity area relative to the business. We'd love to keep talking about it. We also have a couple of folks with cameras. You've probably seen them milling around. We'd love to get your feedback in the next few minutes before the other session kicks off. Tell us what you loved. Tell us what you didn't love. That would be great. Any feedback would be appropriate, but grab one of those guys if you've got a story to tell.
If you don't feel comfortable doing that on video, just tweet it to us using the hashtag old banking. If there are other examples you want to share with us of old banking versus new banking ideas, use that as well. And we've got a microsite as well where we're featuring content from the Makeover, monigle.com/makeover. Most of you have probably seen a seat drop that has some research that we've conducted with some of your peers around the state of branding within financial industry and banking. There will be a full report up soon on the site as well, along with a lot of footage from this.
Just want to thank the Berkshire Bank team one more time for leaping into something like this and letting us do it. We really appreciate it. Hats off to you. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, everyone.